Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of G Slade's Indie Music Showcase. And if you like this show, then you're probably into indie music, even if you're only here to see today's guest because maybe you're a fan of theirs. But rest assured that we have a huge archive of great shows at gsladeshow.com or on your platform that you're listening to now. Whatever platform you're on, you can go back to episode 1 and just binge for hours. The only exception would be YouTube, but that library is growing as well. So I appreciate you coming by. And if you are a listener and not a video subscriber, I would suggest you check out YouTube and watch these shows when they're available, because it's just it's a whole different dynamic than just the voice. And if you have time to watch, I think it's really cool to see these artists. You hear what they say, but you can see the facial expressions, and it's just a new level to the experience. You get to see some of the cool artwork, and it's just a lot of fun. So with that said, really appreciate you coming by. And if you want to continue to support indie music, the sponsor of the show, G Slade Music, also an indie artist, check him out on Spotify or your favorite platforms, or go over to gslade.com. And hopefully you find a couple of songs you like. The latest single is Canceled, and it's doing pretty well on Spotify. And I invite you to listen and download the entire library of the show if you just want hours, over 100 hours of content. Great music, great interviews, great people. I just can't put everybody over enough. And I have a great time doing this show. And if I'm enjoying it, surely other people out there will enjoy the experience as well. Again, so excited that you came by today, whether it's the first time you've seen the show or listened to the show, or if you come every week. I appreciate you. So thank you very much. And without further ado, let's get to today's featured artist. All right. Peace out. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of G Slade's Indie Music Showcase. I am G Slade, and welcome to the show, Mr. Akso Heart, all the way from London. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Man, I'm great. Just enjoying a Saturday afternoon when we're recording this. I think it's evening for you, no?
Yeah, it's 7 in the evening. So
Nice.
yeah, happy to be on.
I'm happy that it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday. You'd like, instead of going out, you want to stay home and chat with me. I feel
I
special.
had to come on. I had to come on. I love the show. I love the podcast.
Well, we love having you on, man. So we have people from all over the world on, all kinds of genres. So we never know what we're going to discover on the show, which is probably my favorite part. So I'm glad that you are on. I've recently just, seen you this year on social media. That's how we started talking on Instagram, I believe. But it looks like you've been pretty busy out there, doing a lot of hustling to get your sound out there and the message about your project. And I know right now you have one single out, right? No More. Is
Yes.
there, I'm assuming there is more in the works though, coming out behind this single.
Yeah, I kind of worked very recently on the music. I recorded around 12 tracks during this whole lockdown experience. So I have the content ready to go, but it's just finding that perfect timing, balancing that with like a full-time job also. So but there's stuff coming as well. So I'm super excited about it.
I feel that I also have a full-time job outside of being a dad, outside of doing this show and all that. So what's the ideal time in your mind to do, to release more of that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been kind of studying other artists, really connecting within the industry, learning about people's experience. I also did a podcasting show kind of on Instagram as an IGTV series, where I really learned the process of what it's like to be an artist. My background is science, so music is really new to me. So to find the perfect time is quite difficult to answer, but I think I didn't want to put any pressure on myself, and that's kind of like this first single. It was really going out of the box, doing something I normally wouldn't do, and when it felt right. So that's kind of what I'll be doing for the other singles that are upcoming. Whenever I feel it's a good time, why not release it then, rather than putting the pressure of a single a month or whatever time scale most people do.
Yeah, I mean that's a I think that's a standard industry approach, right? Do one a month, but I don't know. You got, like you said, you got to do what makes sense for you. Uh, because I think we first talked in what, February, maybe. I know it's been a minute. We had a couple of misses on lining the show up. So I mean, you've been promoting this one single for a few months, and it still seems to be working. So that makes sense. The plays on Spotify are crawling up there, and I know you're on other platforms. But I would like to back up because I don't like to jump just right into what's going on right now. I like to know how you got there. And you mentioned you had a science background. And I did read your press kit, but I didn't just want to regurgitate it. I'd rather you tell that story. So explain to me and everybody else, what you mean by a science background. How does that turn into, making music and going on podcasts and promoting it?
Yeah, it is an odd one, not the usual route for a musician. But my background, yeah, I did a degree in medicinal chemistry. I did my master's and my PhD actually in chemistry as well. So I was very academic in kind of my career route. But during that time, I really wanted to be creative because it's a very analytical space to be in. You're analyzing big numbers and chemicals and doing things that are quite are creative in their own right, but very methodical. You're doing things in a routine. And I like to say, and I say this to everyone, that I am both analytical and creative as a person. Maybe not the best in either of the two, but I was missing that sense of creativity. So I got involved in working on university radio. That's actually where my first real experience of like being within the industry happened. I was talking to musicians in and around London, but also students as well that were working on music. And I followed on with my own podcast, again, really looking at the concepts of music. So I feel like I've always had an interest. But although maybe it seems late in life to explore music, I felt like now was the right time. The lockdown came and it felt very constraining in terms of creativity. So I felt, okay, I need to do it now. We've experienced a year that can throw things off completely. If I don't do it, I'm going to forget about it and I'm not going to really explore that side of me. So it just felt right. Yeah.
That makes sense. It was weird. I had the opposite effect. I actually I had less output during the pandemic, but I was doing stuff creative before it. So I don't know, maybe the change was a switch for both of us. And since I was already doing it, I stopped and you weren't, so you started maybe. So that's kind of interesting. So is your day job still related to your degrees?
Yeah, so I mean, I did slightly venture out into marketing and social media community management for different businesses, but now I work for a chemical distributor. They kind of distribute specialist chemicals and ingredients across the world. But I'm still in the content creation space, so I still get to be creative and put that science in it as well. So I'm happy. This is a very new position that I'm in. I've been here almost a month now. But yeah, previously it was very marketing heavy, which in turn kind of helped me with the music as well, because there's more to being an artist than just the music. So
no doubt. I think your press kit said something about you doing photography a lot previously too. So that's another passion of yours?
Yeah, I also do resin art. I do quite a lot of other different creative stuff, but photography was my first passion, because when it comes to social media, I didn't really like being on camera and doing all that kind of, I'm an artist and this is what I do kind of thing. And photography was expression in a way that I didn't need to be in front of the camera. So if you kind of look at my profile, a lot of the initial images was photography, and that's kind of how I gained a little bit of a following, and people were on Instagram for that very reason, was, pictures and visuals. So that's kind of how it worked in the beginning.
I was going to say that used to be the main point of Instagram, right? And it's still my favorite social media platform. It's less inflammatory than some of the others, especially for artists, I think, especially for visual artists, but it's got a big music space too. That's where I find a lot of new artists to talk to. So that and TikTok, between those two. So are you on TikTok yet?
Yeah, I've explored TikTok. I think I've passed the age of actually figuring it out. It's very Gen Z. I'm not sure how to kind of capture the attention of audiences there. I think our attention span in general, whatever generation you are, is getting shorter and shorter, and just creating content that's like 2 seconds long to capture attention is very, very
Kind of have
confusing.
to though, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what generation you are either, but I was born in '82, graduated high school in 2000, right? So I'll be 40 next year, which sounds really freaking old, but I don't feel that way. But anyway, I've noticed that, when I was a kid, I had a favorite band and a favorite album and would know the life story of my favorite band, or, I've seen the same movie 8 times and can quote the whole thing. But we also had limited access to content, so it was kind of bottlenecked into whatever amount of the limited content that we liked, we really embraced. And now there's so much. I mean, how much, new music goes on Spotify every day? How are you supposed to really capture somebody's attention? It's almost impossible unless you have a juggernaut marketing program behind you, right? So, and even then, it's a minuscule piece, like, is all you can really hope to get. So with that said, I mean, it sounds bleak, but with that said, you can still create pretty good followings that are more loyal, I think, than in the past, because if you get a loyal following now, they're really into you. So what mode of marketing yourself has been the most successful for you so far?
That's a difficult question, but I think really showcasing myself for the first time, I think was something that helped people who even knew me previously or outside social media really connect again, and realize what the music meant to me, what the messaging around the song was, and what the process was like. Because a lot of the times we see artists, even the ones that are on social media, they're promoting their music, and them and love them for their sounds, and they're very mainstream. But when you want to know who the artist is, you don't really know much about them, because they're just beyond that point of trying to get to know them. So I think the feedback that I personally got was really putting myself on camera and actually saying, okay, this is why I'm doing the music, and this is what this song specifically means to me. That helped, and that really connected with people, which in turn hopefully got them to kind of stream the music and listen to the music and understand where it came from. Like you said, I think it is difficult nowadays with social media. It's there's so much out there, so you need to try and showcase something new. And for a lot of artists, it's trying to emulate things that other artists have done, but really and truly, no one's going to do me the way that I do me, right? Because that's the appeal, I think. Regardless of sonically how you sound, vocally how you sound, what kind of genres you get into, it's actually people connecting to you and what you bring to the table. And so I think really, when you're marketing yourself, I think that is the best thing you could do. Like, hey, this is me, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest image to maintain is your real image, right? Not trying to promote something that isn't you. But I have to say, just from an outside observer's point of view, I look at your artwork and, the way in which your account promotes itself and listen to your song. To me, it doesn't come off like a guy that just started doing this. So, I mean, how much were you dabbling in some of this, if not publishing it, just doing it on your own? Because the production's solid, the performance is solid, and your online presence is solid. It doesn't come off like this is the first year this guy's been, promoting his own music. So
no, oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I think I'm one of those people, extra, I don't know if that's the word, but I was very, very extra with how I kind of approached music. I have a whole like journaling system. So it's not like a typical, this is how I feel today. But it's really putting ideas and kind of scrapbooking, pictures, visuals and stuff like that. So anything I see online, I'm like, you know what, love it, just put it down. So I can reference it again at a later point. When it came to music, I felt the pressure. I felt like I'm going to put myself out there. Some people didn't, my family didn't know I sang. It's a lot of pressure. So I wanted to make sure I did it right. So even if you listen to know more, it's very commercial sounding. There is it wasn't the typical acoustic grab a guitar and play along with it, which there's nothing wrong with that. It was for me a point I purposely wanted to sound as mainstream as I could, because I wanted to do it the best that I could,
Yeah.
the most with the resources I had, to make sure I was putting my best foot forward. And I really appreciate that, because it's very nerve wracking when you're exploring music at the same time. And I made sure that the visuals, I am a visual person, so I think it makes sense. I scrapbook and I do all that. So I wanted it to be as clean cut as I wanted it. I didn't want to half-ass getting into music. I wanted to make sure I'm just really putting the best foot forward.
But you're having fun too, though.
Of course, of course.
Right.
I like I said, I am a visual artist. So for me, being in photography and being on social media was fun to me. And looking at visuals that really appeal to me is fun. For a lot of artists, that's a headache. They're like, I don't want to think about visuals. I don't want to think about how things look on social
Yeah.
media. I was a social media manager for a good few years, so I was in that kind of space. And when you look at my profile, you can see it. It looks very organized, and that's because that's just how I approached other businesses, whether they weren't artists and within the music industry. It was still very organized and analytical. I guess it's the science coming through.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say the science probably contributes to how you do everything. Because if I had to guess, you got into science because you were a certain type of personality and a certain type of brainwave, and then, but you're also creative, so that they work together. I would think when you can, you put your creativity into your science, and definitely put your science into your creativity. How much do those two worlds overlap? Being analytical, scientific, and also being artistic.
I do think, I do think they overlap quite a bit. When you're releasing music, it's again not a simple jump on a track, sing, and put it on Spotify. There's marketing. There's coming on podcast, having a conversation with people. There's trying to get on playlists, and there's trying to do a music video, for example. So there's if you do it chaotically, it can work for people. I wouldn't answer that side of things. But for me, I think my approach is that let's put this like a lab experiment. Let's actually have things noted down in the order that you want to do it. And it makes me feel comfortable in that sense. The creative side of things and being expressive and being less organized is when I'm in the studio, when I am recording, and that's where I get the freedom to kind of try out new things. But my approach to releasing music, I think, is very scientific in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I heard a weird humming. I don't know what's going on outside the studio here. It's in a neighborhood, so you never know. Right on. Well, so obviously the college and the post-grad school came, late teens, early 20s to mid 20s and whatnot. So when you were deciding what to do, though, as, in high school, were you, in like chemistry labs, but, singing after school to your favorite songs and writing at that point?
Yeah, I guess not as much writing. I think it was really just singing along with some of the artists that inspired me growing up. I think I came from a background that art wasn't really considered something that you would go into. And I think culturally, that's not just, your parents want you to do the best, and they really want you to make sure that you have a steady footing in your career, especially coming from an immigrant sort of background. They want you to get into more solid jobs, if that makes sense. And with creative industry, I think a lot of people know it's hard. It's hard if you don't make it. It's hard if you don't have something steady. So it although music was a huge part of my life, I think I condensed that down to make sure I explored other aspects of myself that I felt was important at the time, and really pushed my career in a direction that I did enjoy, but just guaranteed me a little bit more success than testing music. So it was always kind of like a hobby thing. I'd be humming and singing along and doing harmonies with some of my favorite musicians, but never really seriously explored it until I got to university, joined a few societies, did some live performances with other musicians, took some backing kind of positions, and then now really releasing and focusing on my own material.
Sweet. Well, London is that where you've been this whole time, or is that just recent?
Yeah, I've always been in London, Southwest London, represent. But I have kind of actually when I was doing my PhD, it was sponsored by a Japanese company, and that's where I was really, I got some experience to be in Japan, and I just love the lifestyle there. I think it's very creative, very unique. Nowhere in the world I would compare Japan to, especially Tokyo, and that's when I kind of decided, like, you know what, I really want to explore music. The scene here is amazing, and they put so much effort to kind of putting visuals out there. And I think in turn that experience really reflected in what I do with my own music today.
What was your favorite part about Japan that was different than home?
I think culturally they're just on another wavelength. It's just it's all I want to say bizarre, but we kind of reference bizarre to things that are quite negative, but strange in the best possible way. It's just so unique. The clothing, the culture, the speaking, the restaurants, the music. It's very unique, and London is such a diverse place. So I had seen lots of genres, but there was just something so progressive in a way that in Tokyo that I haven't seen anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I've heard it's a definitely a quirky culture compared to rural Western society. On another podcast, a guy was talking about even the exchange of business cards is different in Japan. It's a much more formal kind of occasion. And like over here, we're just like, yeah, thanks, stick it in our pocket. And over there, that would be disrespectful, apparently, in certain circles. I've never been. I'd love to go. I've never even been outside the United States, unfortunately. So that's why I like talking to all these, all you guys from international countries. To me, I think the last show was Ukraine. The one before that was Russia. So pretty exciting. Although I was like, I thought I had hit the Asian continent already, and then my coworker reminded me that the portion of Russia the guy was in was actually on the European side. I was like, damn it. So, but you've been to Japan, so I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to that Asian guest. I'll get there one day. But I really do like getting the international perspective on so many things because we share so many values, but also see things a lot differently. But I think in the end, we're all pretty much the same. We want to be successful, comfortable. We want to contribute, we want to create and all that. Right. But going back to when we were talking about you switching into music and all that, and you saying, it's scary to put yourself out there like that. Did you find, because I find that like, if I post a photograph I made, or if I did a painting, I don't paint, and if you ever saw one, you'd know why. But to me, and even putting a instrumental out there is not as stressful as putting my vocal performances out there for scrutiny. Now, why do you think as humans, we are so much more scared of the feedback of our vocal performance versus like our instrumental and like our creative visual arts, or if I wrote a story, I wouldn't be as worried about people. But if you're singing, it's like, oh man, I'm so scared.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting question. I think when it comes to content that is physical and you can see it, touch it, feel it, read it, the scrutiny doesn't feel as impactful because when it comes to your voice and what you look like, that's part of you. That's who you are. And not to say your skills aren't, but it's something where if you didn't like my voice, it will feel personal because that's me, that's my sound, that's my vocal. Or if you didn't connect with the way I looked, it would, not that it would create an impact and like you should care, but we are people, right? It's a natural thing to be concerned with and wanting to connect with someone else and wanting them to like you. A lot of people are afraid to say that actually I want people to like me because I like people. And when it comes to your voice, I think that's a huge part of you and your expression. And when it comes, I guess, to podcasting or something like music, music also has another layer. Yes, your songwriting can get scrutiny. Yes, the production can get scrutiny. But then it is your voice, then it is the music video, and it is your marketing that can. So that I think there's so many layers. It does feel like, damn, you don't. It's almost like you don't like me, also. So, and it's a really odd thing to say because people don't want to admit that that's part of your approach to music. As much as you can say, I really enjoy it, I don't care about what people say, at the end of the day you do, because it's just a natural human feeling. So I think when it came to my voice, it was firstly, it wasn't something I had done before, so that's always going to be nerve-wracking when you approach something quite new. You're going to be nervous about it, and then singing is one of those things where it's not like I don't want to say a normal thing to do, but it's not doing a presentation, or it's not writing something where people may have seen some of that before. It's something so out there that you're going to feel the pressure of like, oh, damn, that's part of me. And if they don't like it, I'm kind of like taken aback by it. So not to say everyone's going to love the music and everyone's going to love the voice. It's just when you're first starting out, particularly with the people that you actually know, not just on social media, that's what's going to be really pressurized.
Yeah. It's, and I guess in a way, the difference in your voice is you actually don't have much control over that outside of learning how to control your voice, right? You could learn how to breathe right, or what to drink before you sing, or how to use your lungs and diaphragm and, mouth and all that. But the funny part is you're born with your voice and you're so worried about it, people not liking it. I guess maybe the difference is if we write something, we could edit it, or, we could fix it, right? We can't really, if we go out and give a bad performance, and it's like, I can't really fix it at this point. I can't change my voice. Maybe I can learn to control it some. Have you done your original song live ever?
Yeah, so I actually did that very, very recently. I did my first live performance at a very small gig with a couple of other musicians. That was nerve wracking. Again, it's especially with how the music sounds. It's very up tempo. It's very garage based. It's got elements of electronica as well in there. So to perform that in a kind of acoustic environment was a total game changer. And your voice is out there to there's less place to hide. You can add layers and harmonies when you're in the studio, or when you're performing it live. It's another ball game. So
There's another fan pinging you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So yeah, it was just it was a lot of pressure to kind of do that performance live, and just to kind of go back on the point of why the voice, I think, sometimes is scrutinized. I went through a period of time where I had just a lot of pressure in life, just like most people. They have a low moment, and I wrote a whole list of things that I liked about myself and I didn't like about myself. And one of the ones that I didn't like was my voice, I think, and just whether it was expression of like, I don't feel like people hear my voice in terms of opinion and in terms of when I need to voice it, but also the tone of my voice I didn't like. I was very critical about it, but I wanted to take what I had on that list that I disliked and flip it on its head. Cool, I loved certain things about myself, but and the things that I don't like, we always kind of, a lot of times we get recommended, don't focus on those things, focus on the things that you're good at. But in that point in my life, I was like, you know what? No, let me focus on the things that I don't like. Let me change that narrative. Let me make sure that actually, when I go out there, no, I love how I sound. I love my tone. I love my music. So I kind of took that negative experience and tried to make that positive. And when I did perform it live, I had the nerves. It probably wasn't the best performance live. You can find it on YouTube, but I enjoyed it, and I really felt proud of being able to take something that was a kind of a negative point in my life and turn it positive. So it was a very monumental time for me.
Sweet. Where did you perform? Somewhere in London?
Yes, it was the Moustache Bar in London and Dalston, if any Londoners are watching. And yeah, it's a very small venue, but they were very accommodating, and I got to perform with other musicians. So I really learned from them and learn about, it's not performing live is another ball game. There's stage presence that you need to start to think about. So that was, a very good learning experience for me. Hopefully more to come as well.
I don't know about you, but I would find it a lot easier to perform like a karaoke song that's someone else's than to perform my own and just be out there exposed like that. Not only my vocals and my stage performance, but like I created this whole thing. So if you don't like it, that's me you're not liking there, right? Just like you said. But if I'm singing, a Guns N' Roses song, like everybody loves Guns N' Roses, so probably won't care what I look like as much. They'll just be, singing along to the song they already love.
But you know what? Actually, I think also that can also be a negative because it's so like well known and well loved when you're doing covers like the Rolling Stones or whoever you're covering. Guns N' Roses and all those artists are so iconic, right? And the songs are quite iconic. So there's actually for me a bit more pressure when you perform the cover because if you're not delivering. Karaoke is different, but obviously if you're doing a performance of a cover, like a cover of a well-known song, I think you get that extra pressure, like, oh my God, I'm not going to, I can't compete against artists that are so iconic like that. So original music gives you that flexibility to have fun with it.
Right. There's no wrong way to do your own music, right? I mean, but covers used to be the thing. Everybody was singing the same songs. Not sure when we got so hung up on whether you wrote it yourself or not, because in the 50s and 60s, I mean, I'm going way back here, but the English artists were singing American songs and American artists were singing, English songs, and everybody was singing the hit songs, no matter what the hit was. If it was something out of Motown, I mean, you still had like maybe Buddy Holly would record it, the Beatles would record it, Roy Orbison would record. Everybody was doing the same tracks. I mean, if you look at the Beatles' first album, or first or second, one of them's like, half stuff they didn't write.
Yeah.
It's just, we think people will buy you singing this song that we already know is good. I mean, all those Motown legends, Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson were writing everything, right? I mean, and so I don't know. I think if you could perform, you can perform anybody's song, right? But writing is also awesome because you get to express yourself. I've never done a serious cover because I've always just wanted to create the whole thing, but I think doing these covers in your vein of production and I guess genre, if you will, would come off pretty cool if you mix that in. Is that something you've looked at doing too, mixing in covers on an original album, or would you keep it separate?
I think I would definitely keep it separate from original material, but it has been something I've considered. I've only recently joined a small band. Actually, we had our first rehearsal last week, and
separate project.
It's a separate project at the moment, but definitely something I'd like to implement in my own performances if I am ever doing it live. But that again was, like you said, exploring covers and really working on material, like you said, to showcase different genres. We covered Green Day during our first rehearsals, and my genre is typically maybe more pop R&B based, and it's nice to learn more music. I'm a huge fan of old soul music, like you said, Motown records as well. And like you said, it will show a different maybe layer to who I am as an artist. So it'll definitely be something that'll happen in the future. But at the moment, I felt like now was the time to say, okay, hey, my name's Akso Heart and I'm here, and this is my material, this is my written, my own original music. So at the moment, it's focused on originals, but I definitely throughout the year will explore covers also.
I want to do covers, but I don't want to just sound like the original song. I was talking about this on another show. I would like to cover like Seether. I love their songs, but they already do it in the way I would want to do it. The instrument choice, the guitar, kind of like a rock version. And I'm like, does anybody need to hear me do Seether, Seether song in the same style Seether does it? It's kind of like, kind of silly at that point. Now, if I'm going to do something that was like a country song as a rock song, or I take a, you know, acoustic ballad and make it heavy or something like that, that makes sense because you're adding another element to it. Does that factor into what you want to do as a cover, or are you okay just doing like taking I think your influences said something about you like Frank Ocean, was that correct?
Yeah,
So you take a Frank Ocean song, are you going to do a cover of it that sounds like something completely different of a different genre, or would you just sound like you doing Frank Ocean?
yeah. See, that's also a very interesting point. I think when you're influenced like from particular artists, I'm sure you have artists that you are like, I wish I was at that level, and those people really influenced even vocal styles as well. So
Yeah.
Frank Ocean is one of them for me, and he definitely is an artist that I think has almost inspired the whole genre itself. So I think doing a cover of his music would be quite difficult because I'm very connected to that sound anyway. But like I said, when it comes to maybe other artists like Green Day, it's not a typical he doesn't do R&B.
Yeah, that'd be cool if you did a Green Day song, because that'd be completely different.
Exactly. So I think I would, if I did ever explore even like a project itself on covers, it would try and emulate different sounds. And I've done that actually with original music as well. This track is very garage influenced, and I have some that I explored country. I even actually did No More, a rockier version of No More.
Nice.
It was a very small snippet of it.
So you got that recording? I want to hear that.
I'll definitely send it to you. It's like a demo version, but it was a fun thing to do. Had a bit more grit into it than what it sounds like, but I love it. It's very typical to say I don't have a favorite genre. I listen to all kinds of music, but that generally is the case for me. I am aware as well that my vocal is very aligned with R&B. So I understand that there is almost like limitations of how far you can kind of stretch your sound. So which isn't a negative thing. I could definitely do an R&B version of, I don't know, something super influenced by rock or country.
Yeah, man, do like American Idiot by Green Day, but like your version. Right. When I Come Around, that'd be awesome,
Yes, yeah. Classic tune.
Because to me, the covers that cross styles really shows the quality of the lyrical content, right? I keep going back to Seether just because I listen to them a lot, but they did Careless Whisper, George Michael's song, and their version. I mean, if you listen to it, you would just be like, okay, yeah, this is a Seether song. They wrote it, cool. If you never knew about George Michael or Wham or any of those guys, but it's two completely different genres, so it just shows the quality of whoever wrote that song, whether it was George Michael or somebody else. And I'm sure somebody out there is offended. I don't know exactly who wrote it. I'm sorry, but it's a great song. I'll give it that, and so that, I think those great lyrics transcend genres. And I've seen that it's a big trend for like metal bands to do Taylor Swift songs, which is pretty funny. I think some are hits, some are misses, but I like the style in general. So yeah, that would be cool, man. I think you need to do a Green Day song for us or something like that, or Nirvana or something like that,
That'd be cool. Yeah.
That would be very cool. Now, one thing we didn't I got ahead of myself a bit, just, and I know you're like, I'm gonna go on this podcast, talk about my music, and we're here going all over the place, but that's what we do, man. That's what we're all about.
I love it.
The name Akso Heart, obviously that's your birth name, right? You were born Akso, last name Heart. So that's the whole story, right?
No. I wish I could say that. I was very conscious about, again, putting myself out there, and part of the name actually was me sitting down in Japan one day thinking, if I was an artist, what would I call myself? Because my real name is Abdul. It doesn't cut it when it comes to sort of a musical name. I wasn't part of a band also, so it was very hard to, My Chemical Romance is very it wouldn't be a single artist. Or The Weeknd is a great example though, because it sounds like a band, but it's an individual artist.
Oh, I just recently got into him, by the way. He's awesome.
But he's so good, very, very good.
I saw him at the Super Bowl. Shame to admit, the first time I saw him, And I
Oh
was like,
man.
I've been missing out. I need to get into this dude. But anyway, I'm gonna quit interrupting. Go for it.
No. You should explore his mixtapes. Like, I think he's got great music out that you can kind of catch up on. But his original mixtape, just before he kind of launched, was amazing. So definitely would recommend
I'm gonna
that.
do that. I'm gonna do that.
But yeah, I think for me it was really being conscious about forming a name that I could be a performer and not feel like that's me. It's like almost separated myself and made me feel actually more confident giving myself a stage name. The name actually, in my language, Ux is like mirror, and I kind of wanted to emphasize that how you perceive the world and how you perceive yourself is comes from your own heart. Like, it comes from what you see and what you want to see, really.
Right.
So Akso Heart, it was kind of incorporating also the Japanese culture. They're very symbolic as well in terms of like emojis, and visually they're everything's kawaii, and everything's kind of like that. So where I was kind of the idea was to debut in Japan, and that's where I was kind of figuring out the name. It also came from sort of a very kind of cheesy but personal space of like, I want people to, whatever they want to kind of visualize and see in me, that they get that I almost give them what they want. You'll get what you want, because if your heart is in it, then you'll get it. So that's where Akso Heart comes from.
I was gonna say, on the Abdul name, it worked out for Paula.
Yeah, Sinner San. I mean, it did. That's fair enough. I think
You could have got some name recognition. You could have been Akso Abdul, and then people be like, oh, okay, probably Paula's family. We're gonna listen.
right.
The legacy artist.
Yeah, my cousin Paula. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
no. I mean, it's interesting. I think I've had actually that comment of, you could have just kind of worked with your own name, but actually there is a bit of a mystique around the name, and I like it.
It's a cool
also,
name.
I'm into numerology as well, so together Akso Heart is a very strong, powerful number. So yeah, I'm happy with it.
When you say a powerful number, elaborate on that.
So, without getting too deep into numerology,
Get as deep as you want to get, buddy. I have nowhere to be.
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of people kind of consider letters, and associate them with numbers. But I mean, it's a very spiritual thing that you get connected with numbers. People think these are just more of a heavier connection. For me, it was always just kind of like, what numbers kind of appealed to me, what kind of numbers are almost smooth, if that makes sense. I don't know how to kind of express that.
I'm with it.
It was less about the very spiritual aspects to numerology, but I kept seeing numbers. So obviously people who are into it, they'll get what that means. They're associated with angels, they're associated with that. But for me, it was just like, I keep seeing numbers, and 33 was kind of one of them. And it just happened that, even without thinking, the name Akso Heart kind of totaled to that number as well. So it was just a very odd way of coming back to numerology, which is something that I kind of looked into last year quite a bit, because it was just something I was experiencing. But yeah, it worked out great.
Funny you say 33. One of my favorite bands I discovered in 2019 was Fever 333. So there you go.
And the producer that I worked with, so I worked with a producer called 33 Beats. His name has 33 in it. so yeah, it was just a very interesting thing happened there. Yeah.
Now, do you get 33 from Akso Heart just by A is 1 and B is 2? Is that where the numbers come from? Just coordinate to their spot in the alphabet, or?
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit more complex than that, but it does work out like, they assign specific letters with specific numbers, and then add them up, and it kind of works out that way. So
Yeah. I don't know what language you're using too, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the language is super important, and there's other things that are kind of connected with it. Your life path, you get kind of values around that. So 30,
Wow.
30 and 33. 11 as well was something that I kept seeing. So I think Akso Heart is 30, and then just connected with everything else. It was just amazing. Yeah.
I'm a fan of prime numbers myself. I don't know why. Every time I see one, I'm like, hey, that's a prime number.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think even from a science background, numbers are a huge way of life. I feel like a lot of I mean, everything's connected to numbers. So, I mean, I don't think there's any sort of magic to it, but it's interesting. It's intriguing.
It's more of a way to, yeah, I don't think it's magical because we can understand it. Usually magic's something we don't understand, right? We used to think epileptic fits were like possessions or some kind of like demonic expression, right? Whereas now we understand epilepsy. So once you solve the mystery, and science is how we do that, right? And there's science in music, right? I mean, music, sound has a physical form, right? So it makes sense that one physical form hitting my ear doesn't make me happy versus another one that does.
Right.
It makes perfect sense. So, I mean, if you look at the sound waves of major chords versus minor chords, it's something that easy. You can see the minor chords look a little off, right? And I'm like, oh, no wonder that sounds sad, and a little demure.
Right.
So, I get it. So how much of the, musical or the, what'd you call it? Numeration or
Numerology.
yeah, numerology. How much of that factors into your, melodic choices?
It almost happens accidentally, if that makes sense. Everything happens without me being intentional about it. So I think even I kind of noticed with I mentioned I recorded 12 tracks during the lockdown, and even in the numbers of how long the tracks were or the tempo of the tracks, it kind of naturally I started to notice things that were there. Melodically, I'm not sure. I kind of approach my style is very almost like a freestyle. I go into the studio and I'll just start mumbling some words over a song and melodies, and it makes no sense. And if anyone had heard those original like demos, they'd be like, "What the hell is he doing?" And sometimes you get words out of it. I recorded a song called "My Mind," which actually we cut the record within like 20 minutes because the words just came out. It was just like, okay, the words work, and I'm gonna just focus on a specific topic and area in my life, and it just flowed out. Whereas normally the route is just like mumbling over everything, then trying to figure out words, and it's a bit more of a longer process. But I never put numbers in the melodic style, but I think you might notice numbers. I think if you look deeper into it.
Yeah, it's probably subliminal. But that's why even when artists make multiple songs, you can tell who it is, right? I don't know. It's subliminal. This is where my brain goes. I'm with you on the mumbling. My wife thinks I'm insane sometimes if she hears me writing a song, I'll just be like, and then I'm like, okay, it sounds like I said blah, 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 But dude, I remember things like that. Like when I can't remember a word, I'm like, what was that word? And I'll just start saying these crazy things because I have an idea of the way it should sound out loud. And I just kind of like recreate it. And then it's like a focusing a camera. It just comes together eventually.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. I'm glad I'm not the only weirdo out there that operates like that. But I think a lot of songwriters do that, especially the ones that are writing to a melody. I know some write, poems and then go write a music to it. I've never been much into that just because of the way my brain works. I'd rather make music and then write lyrics to it.
Yeah, I mean, I do a bit of both, I think, because generally if I'm working on a track from with somebody, if I'm collaborating with the producer or, I'm meeting other musicians, doing a duet, whatever it is, I would mumble like the same process. I'll mumble it, try and figure out some words. But then I also, like I said, I do scrapbook a lot. I do journal a lot. And a lot of the times I can draw sort of lyrical inspiration from some of the things that I write. So yeah, I do have lots of writing, but it never is in the sense of lyrics, if that makes sense. It's more like I've heard a phrase and I really find that fascinating. So I need to write that down. Or, something just sticks in your mind and then, you just note it down.
Yeah, sorry about yawning. Had nothing to do with you, I promise. Really, it didn't. I'm just a yawner. I probably drink too much coffee. So that's a natural segue actually into the song, and the song's called No More. And you have a bit on your press kit explaining kind of where it comes from, but again, I'd rather you tell it out loud. And so we just talked about, you know, mumbling over some music, coming up with songs, having your journal, having your scrap. And by the way, I do that too. You should see the text message I send to myself, this whole thread. You would think I needed some institutional assistance sometimes because I write creative writing, and I do like short stories and songs as well, and I'll have a vague idea and I'll just text it to myself, like, you know, girl with chicken on her foot, you know what I mean, like something crazy, and then it has a trigger, and then I do the mumbling thing, come up back with where I was. So with all that said, No More, kind of give us the idea of for one, what the song is about as much as you could say, and then how did it go from like a germ of an idea to, you know, being out in the world for our consumption?
Yeah, I mean, I like how we kind of mentioned at the start. I was at a point in my life where I felt I need to do this. It's kind of now or never. And a lot of actually this, I have a song called Now or Never. A lot of the songs I'd written when I first started exploring original music was about evolution, about really evolving as a person and changing as a person. And No More came at a time where I felt like I can't stand in my own way. I can't be the reason why I don't explore music, because I am very self-critical, and I think a lot of people are like that. It's no more being in that comfort zone of, I think I'm comfortable here, I'm not going to do something I love or really want to do because I'm nervous about X, Y, and Z. So it came at a point where I felt, okay, it's no more of that comfort zone, no more of holding you back. And so that's where I got into the music, and it turned as time went on. I think last year was a great learning experience, hopefully for the world. Although we say this all the time, and I don't think the world in general is ever going to change. But there was a lot happening. Globally, there was a lot of social unrest and social education. I think for a lot of people are learning a lot more about people's life experience and things that they can change. And without getting too deep into that, it really reflected in the music I was writing. It was about almost not letting kind of the media and not letting what we read really impact us being active on actually educating ourselves, or being really active on understanding what's going on in the world. And even now at this point, there's still unrest happening globally, and I felt like, no, we can't do this no more. We always talk about, you know, we're going to change and pray for X, Y, and Z country, and it nothing changes. So where I was kind of mentally was like, it's super frustrating to see that in the world, and it was reflected in the music. So it became quite angsty and almost rebellious in its messaging. Whereas initially it came from a personal space of actually, it's no more comfort zone. So yeah, and that's how it came out in the world. I did a very short lyric video, which I was going to release, but I was trying to focus on my own personal visuals. But initially, those visuals, really reflected sort of what was happening in the world, and the sort of almost chaos that we're seeing today. So it's if this is a message for anyone, take it how you want. People, you know, consume music any way they want. But for me, it came from no more comfort zone. Take yourself out of the box. Make sure you're doing things that you enjoy in your life, and don't let yourself limit you.
That's a great point. Most people do limit themselves, right? It's a mental thing. I don't think anyone's ever stopped me from, you know, finishing that third edit of a novel I wrote. You know, that's me doing it. So no, I'm with you on that. And yeah, I consume as little media as I can these days. I don't know, it's just that stage in life where you start to do that. because I am almost 40 and I got kids that are growing up, and there's way more important stuff than, I've considered getting rid of all social media, but I like promoting my show, and getting artists on here like yourself. If I wasn't on Instagram, we wouldn't be talking. Although I might get rid of Twitter. I don't know. You're a social media guru. What do you think about Twitter?
I think, in the social media space, there's a lot of, it's almost like a revolution happening. There's a lot of social media platforms to use. I think actually Instagram is still quite solid in where it is. So I definitely would recommend staying on that platform. Twitter depends on the type of content. If you are or if you have messages kind of like, or tweets to kind of statements to make about kind of popular news, politics, it's a good space, but it's dying out. In my opinion, I think we have now platforms like Clubhouse or the Green Room, which is a new one, specifically actually for podcasters. I think that would be a good one to explore. Green Room is connected to, it's going to sound like a plug. Don't work for them, guys. Green Room is a platform that you can actually, it's very similar to Clubhouse, but you can actually record your conversations and put it on Spotify. So it depends on what your content is. For me, I'm a visual artist. I am a musician also. So, Instagram is always going to be really important for me. And I guess as a podcaster, I would probably recommend staying on Instagram. And Twitter, maybe not so much.
I get less and less useful feedback on Twitter. And if I go on there and really like hit the indie music hashtag and, plug the show or say, hey, if you want to see the show, be a guest or have a guest in mind that you want. But there's also just people are just so, I don't know, inflammatory on Twitter for no reason.
Right. It's a bit like Reddit. It's a bit like Reddit. It's a one of those social. Well, Reddit is even more savage than.
I've never been on Reddit other than if people send me like a meme from Reddit or something.
People are, I think, a bit more aggressive. I don't know if that's the word. They're very more opinionated on places like Twitter and Reddit. So if you like having debates, it's a great space to be in. I personally, I do like having a debate, and I do welcome criticism, but I think it needs to be constructive. So for me,
people get mad though. I'm like, why are you mad? Did you think everybody had your opinion? Right. People will say, I don't care what people think, and they're the ones yelling at you. I'm like, it sounds like you care. It sounds like you care a lot, and probably too much. But I can't think of anyone that's like gone online and had their opinions changed by somebody yelling at them on Twitter or Reddit or anything.
Right.
I got yelled at about promoting my show because I think somebody misinterpreted my intention or something, which could have been me. I might have not worded it right, but I was just like saying, I was going to artists that had indie music, like they were plugging themselves or somebody was plugging them. I was like, that's the target audience for my guests, not for viewers necessarily. I wasn't trying to recruit viewers. I was like, hey, I do this show. If you'd like to be on it, or just check out other artists. And I was like accused of spamming by this one account. And I'm like, I'm not really spamming. I'm not competing with you. I'm not like promoting my album under your album. I'm not saying that because I do my own music. I wasn't doing that. It's like, hey, this is another platform for you to share your music, right?
Right.
But I feel it's because it's Twitter. It's because it's Twitter. I don't think Instagram would have yelled at me. The same people, I swear. Like they go, it's like it's like Bruce Banner uses Instagram and the Hulk uses Twitter. He's just always angry. So
I think that's a good point. I think Twitter is somewhere if you want to be heard, and it's being heard for just the sake of being heard. And not to shut, please, Twitter, leave me alone. Not to come at people who use Twitter. I think I'm just less inclined to debate. I just, if I want to have a conversation with you about anything, I can have that conversation as long as you're open-minded open-minded and willing to be receptive to someone else's opinion. But a lot of the time people just shut their ears and they're screaming, and that's what it feels like on Reddit and Twitter for me. Also a bit maybe Clubhouse as well, because I wasn't too heavily, like, I liked it. It was a very good way to connect. I connected with loads of people on there as well, but it almost is like I want to talk right now because I want to talk and I want people to hear my voice rather than actually having a conversation. So yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I may just close down all my Twitter stuff. And you really can't even share passions without getting yelled at. You know, growing up in the 90s, I was a big pro wrestling fan. And I still like 90s pro wrestling and early 2000s. I don't watch it. I don't watch the new stuff, but I love the podcast where they talk about what was going on behind the scenes, you know. And you could just be like, hey, I really like when you talked about this on that show. And like, it pisses people off. They're like, oh, you're so wrong. And that was crap and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't get why you like stopped your day to tweet this, you know, to send that out. And so, and in the music space, which is what we're talking about, I don't know, man, the show doesn't get much traction on Twitter. I mean, it gets a little bit, but I don't know if it's worth the overall investment, you know, like the pros versus the cons.
I think if you are going to do paid ads, actually, if this is a tangent to everything we're talking about, financially, it's actually, you get more of a reach with less money if you go on Twitter and do paid sort of campaigns. So not necessarily that would reflect on people kind of buying products or investing time to watch a podcast, but you're going to get a greater reach with less money than if you try that on Instagram, because Instagram obviously is a bigger platform. Their prices are higher, and with a small amount of money, you're not going to reach the audience that you can on Twitter. So there are definitely pros and cons to both sides of it, but I think you need to just know what you want for it. For me, I think podcasting is now getting a lot more oversaturated, particularly last year. I think everyone had a podcast at some point. Well, that's what it felt like. I would say YouTube is always going to be quite solid because people are interested and invested. But I think then you have the concerns of, are people consuming the long form content like they used to? And the answer is
no. I mean, and see, my show's got a very niche audience. You know, I'm not going to appeal to like, so I can invest money, promote the show on Twitter and reach more people, but is that going to get me more viewers or just more people have heard of it, you know? Because if you're not in indie music and you're not into getting to know the artist, this show's not going to appeal to that particular audience. But I have some people that'll, you know, DM me, man, I love the show. I love what you're doing. It's great. And the guests that come on feel that way. And, it's weird. It's almost like the show's target audience is the same people that come on it, you know, or that do the same thing, you know, because I was in an online group of indie musicians since 2008, and that's a tight knit group and we all support each other. But like your average, you know, 20-year-old college kid that's walking around with an iPhone listening to Billie Eilish or something, are they going to sit through a 2-hour interview, you know, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or whatnot? It's going to be like, well, get to the exciting part. When does it explode? Or, you know, what's the punchline? And it's like, it's a conversation with another human where we actually get to know each other. Which is crazy.
I think you're right. It's a certain type of audience. I think I read somewhere like the average attention span for people is now like between 5 to 10 minutes, which is pushing it still because of the content that we're consuming on platforms like TikTok. And they have extended it to 3 minutes, for example, but people are literally just watching for a minute. And even that is a lot. So it definitely is a niche audience. I mean,
if I want 3-minute videos, I'm gonna get on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
So we're talking about the song No More, and I'm gonna play it, and the viewers will see the actual music video for it. And so I'm going to play it from the music video. And that way, when we come back, if I see something in the video I have a question about or comment on, we can naturally segue into that. But yeah, hopefully we come back in one piece. And apologies to the internet. I guess we offended the social media, you know, pantheon.
Our bad, our bad.
Seriously. All right. Well, we're gonna play No More by Akso Heart, and we'll be right back.
They can never hold us down. We've been here too long to not let it out. If there was something wrong, we can face it all head on and tell them right now. We're not listening no more. You can control us. When have you told the truth? The lies you put us through, they're in plain sight. If we can see through this, imagine what we've all missed. That you're lying about no more. What you lying about We're not listening no more. Yeah. You can control us no more. You can control us. Control us no more. No more. No more. Frequencies are changing. I'm done with what I left behind.
All right, everybody. That was a great song, and I am very excited that we get to have a conversation with the very artist singing that song. That's one of my favorite aspects of this show, and we are going to get right back to more conversation with our featured artist today. Right after this quick little word about our sponsor, G Slade Music. And if you're into merchandise for indie music, all you got to do is go to your web browser and pull up that URL bar and go to merch.gslade.com, and you can see that popping up right there. And you can see that we have several different designs to choose from, and once you choose that design, you can pick from a wide array of custom items. We have the Raised in America Eyeball Bear tee, which is really excellent. My daughter Sadie made the design for this, and I'm just crazy about it. It correlates to the last album, Raised in America, which you could stream right now on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, YouTube. We have just, if you want the logo on a shirt, we have that. And we have a couple of our favorite hashtags from the show. Hashtag Oprah Digs It, hashtag Die Buff. Those are a few inside baseball jokes that harken back to some of the episodes in the archive. So check out all the shows over at gsladeshow.com or on your favorite platform, and you will be in the loop and understand those jokes. We also have a couple of artists or cover arts from the Raised in America album, including Proud of My Sin, which aren't we all? I know I am. And one of my favorite, though, is this eyeball shirt. And I tell you, it comes in pretty high quality. You get a French Terry t-shirt, and it's got the logo on the front, and then on the back you got the our little mascot, the little bear. And this is all a creation of Sadie, which is just awesome. And she has more art out there. Keep an eye out for her. She's going to do big things. But in the meantime, let's us do big things, and grab you a shirt. You can get it in men's or women's, and get it shipped right to you. Hope you find something you like on there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. All right, peace out. All right, we're back. That was No More by Akso Heart. Tight song, man. And I tell you, for a video, you don't get, hey, this is an indie artist doing their first video for their songs. What was the process behind shooting that video? You know, who helped you with that? And put all that, you know, kind of boarded that out to where, like, who designed the visual? Was that you? Was that somebody doing it with you?
I kind of worked with a couple of people on that. And firstly, thank you so much. It's a real compliment to say it looks like an established artist did it, not an indie artist.
Yeah.
That means a lot. So yeah, the visuals, and I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous. I was very awkward. It was just a strange experience to try and jam to your own song and try and look cool and stuff. So I worked with two videographers. Films by Talha, he's also a London-based creative, and photography LAX. And both of them were with me. We met at a location that they actually filmed some dance videos for. Obviously, there's quite a lot of dance elements in the song. We kind of discussed ideas as we went on, and because the song was very heavily influenced by garage music, which is a genre that was kind of popular music at one point in the UK, and really stemmed from some great UK artists like Craig David, who I was hugely inspired by. So we wanted to get that a bit more of a grungier feel, although the song kind of ebbs and flows in kind of softer vocals, harmonies, but then also some up-tempo parts. We wanted to kind of incorporate that with the visuals. And then I kind of went a different route also, because I felt quite awkward on it, but I worked with a digital creative as well on Fiverr, which is a weird place to find someone who can help you with your visuals. But I made sure that it had some effects that was inspired by some of the artists that I listened to growing up. They were a lot more hardcore than I was. Like the lightning in the background was inspired by 21 Seconds, by the So Solid crew, who are a huge UK group. And yeah, it came really nicely together. It was a long time in the making, because like you said, the single came out in March, and then I was caught up with finding a new job. Life had taken over, but I really felt it was important to get some visuals out, because I am a visual creative, and hopefully, and thank you, it looks like an established artist really doing their thing. So hopefully bigger and better for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say most, but I see a lot of indie artists when they do a music video, it's like they have their cell phone out and they buy into that commercial that says like it does movie quality video. I'm like, yeah, in your hand, shaking around like that, and you know, then you got to know how to edit it and produce it. And although you could tell there's some green screening in your video, it's not like cheesy. You know, it's like it goes with it. You know, everything fits.
Yeah, it's definitely effects. It wasn't actually a green screen. It was visual effects that were added. Okay. So the sky was bright as day, but then it was turned to a dark lightning cloud that was there, and there was obviously some effects. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate those comments, but props to kind of the editors and the photographers that worked with me, because they really captured it correctly.
Yeah, the editing is the part I'm not a fan of. So right now, like, this is my favorite part of the show, actually recording it, talking to you guys and hearing the music. But man, when it's all done, then I got to edit it all together. And now I got more work to do on this one, right? Because we had some technical difficulties, splicing at least 2 files together, which is fine. You know, you learn it because you need to. Because it used to just be an audio only show. You know, it'd be like I was using this thing called Zencaster. It was like IP, voice over IP, but it was all vocal. And I'm like, you know, I really need to get on YouTube, and because it's another audience. I didn't just want to I find that audio only on YouTube is kind of like I don't know, it's not really why people go on there, right? To stare at a picture or a slideshow. You know, they want to see us interacting and all that stuff. So, oh man, I'm just glad we got back on. I was like, oh no, it was such a good interview going there. So, and I try to redecorate the studio for every guest I have, right? You know, this hadn't just been up here forever, and I finally got you on the show, you know. That'd be fun. But yeah, I enjoyed the video. Was that outfit just something you had in the closet?
I think I mean, it sounds cheesy because I always go back to it, but I did scrapbook some of those ideas and colors because purple is a color that I feel like is never really explored in outfits. As
Love
guys as
purple.
well, we like purple's just an underrated color. I thought,
Love it. I
why
love
not?
purple.
So the Docker caps actually is probably one of my maybe signature looks with my visuals as well. Again, inspired by Japanese Docker caps, which are like fisherman caps that we used back in the day, but is a real trend in Japan. And I wanted to incorporate that and the kind of almost like faux leather. PVC kind of shirt was very a unique piece, something I felt like would really take me out of my comfort zone. It's not my usual style, but I enjoyed it. I was like, you know what, it's a look, it's a vibe. Why not bring it to the music video? So yeah.
I mean, it works. Like I said, I liked it when I was watching it originally. I was like, this guy's got it together. I'm happy he's coming on the show, because I get, guests that are in different stages of their, artist journey. Some are just starting up and they're just doing their acoustic, or them and a piano, and some are touring artists and all this stuff or own production companies. So I wasn't sure because I hadn't heard of this guy, but it seems so tight. So I'm sure the more you do it, the success will be a natural side effect. So I don't know how much analytical or how much analytical reporting you've looked at for like your plays online and whatnot, but any specific geographical areas you're having more success in?
The US actually, a lot of the sort of streams have kind of come from there. I think I was put on a playlist that was based in America as well. So I think that really, really helped. But it's interesting. I think because of the commercial sound, it did fit a lot of like music that people in the US were interested in. But lots of random places. Also South Africa, I think, was another peak spot for me. I think they are going through more dance based pop music, so I think it fits that current trend. And I got some support from a couple of radio stations there as well. So I think that helped as well with the streams. But yeah, very, very diverse when I look at my analytics. Not where I expected, because I thought the US, I mean, not to say that they don't listen to garage music, but garage is a very UK signature sound.
I was going to ask about that genre because you said it a few times. And in my youth, garage music was like garage band, we're playing guitars and with amplifiers in a, unattenuated like garage, and it's loud, kind of raw rock. So when you use it, I'm assuming it's more like electronic or
yeah, it's
fancy stuff. Or, I mean,
yeah, I guess it's maybe a hybrid of sort of electronic pop, but also more like a grungier and sometimes rap influenced music as well. So it's usually fast paced, and I think the chorus is very like very garage, if that makes sense. So I guess in the noughties and just before the noughties in the 90s, there was a lot of artists that were really at the forefront of garage music in the UK. Not to get confused with garage band and garage right. In that sense. It was a whole genre of music that was hugely popular in the UK. I guess a good artist, I would say, and I mentioned him before, is Craig David. He was very huge at the time, and I think globally he had great success. He verged into that same R&B and sometimes pop and dance music when his career went on, but primarily his roots were within sort of garage music. And I had some natural comparisons, which is a huge compliment to Craig David. He was somebody who inspired me, so it was great to get that feedback. But that's that sound. So definitely would recommend, if you want to know more about garage music, you can search it on YouTube. You'll get a UK garage playlist and see some tremendous artists who were influential in that sound.
Speaking of playlist, I put your song No More on my Spotify playlist for the show. It's called Featured on G Slade's Indie Music Showcase. And for some reason, it doesn't come up when you search, but because it has a long, stupid name. I probably could have come up with something shorter to the point. But if you go to playlist.gsladeshow.com, he forwards you to that Spotify playlist. So everybody that comes on the show, whatever song we play, if it's on Spotify, we put it on there. Normally we play, 4, 5, 6 tracks from an artist. I know right now that's the one you have out, so that makes sense. You mentioned that you may have something on SoundCloud that you'd be willing to share part of. What is that?
Yes, so this song is called Changes. Again, it was actually going to be the first single, but for some reason it just naturally happened that No More was the song that I went forward for. I actually worked on the visuals for Changes, so there definitely is a music video for it, but the sounds were quite similar and the concepts were quite similar. I think Changes again incorporate that idea of going through changes, and that focused on specifically life changes that I was going through. Vocally, I felt I had changed vocally since the past year. I was out of practice. I didn't have the range that I had at one point, and I was almost getting caught up in my head, like really getting nervous about like hitting some of the notes, which I could do when I was like on my own. But as soon as I hit the studio, I was like, no, I can't. I don't have that range anymore. So it does wear you down. I'm sure as a vocalist and people that are singers, they know that it's super important to take care of your voice, and it's also quite scary when there are changes to your voice. So it was about adapting to that sound. And lyrically, I used the same lyric that No More ends in as at the start of Changes. I wanted my album, which I was thinking of releasing, but again, short attention span, so I need to make sure I'm giving people doses as I go through this musical career. But I wanted my album to flow, and ironically I used the same lyric. It just came to me again when I did No More, but it works. And again, it was influenced by dance music, focused primarily like on J-pop, K-pop sounds. So yeah, this is definitely something I'm going to be releasing very soon. I'm actually recording more parts for the video on Wednesday next week, so I don't have a date for it, but I'm happy to share some of it with you guys today. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it also.
I was just looking it up. It's not under your main profile, right?
Yeah, it's private at the moment, just because it will probably go up on Spotify. Sorry, it'll go up on Spotify when I release it. But I just thought I'd give you guys maybe a bit of a teaser. So okay. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to hearing that one. All right, let me get up there. Well, cool. I mean, man, almost an hour and a half's gone by, and we've only listened to one song, and there was like a 2-minute break when we had the technical issues. But other than that, we've just been chit-chatting, which has been fun. Never know where it's going to go. I didn't know we'd get into, offending Twitter during this interview at all. So one question that was I wanted to get back to when we were talking about the name and how Akso meant mirror in you said native language. We didn't really explore what that is. What language is that?
So it's in Urdu. So that's a language of Pakistan. My heritage actually is my dad's from Afghanistan and my mom's from Pakistan. So I mean, in the language in Urdu, that's what Aks means. It means mirror. So yeah, I mean, the name came from really trying to put different things together. And I've always said, again, reflection is super important. When you hear that phrase, when you're pointing your finger at one person, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. So the thing that you put out in the world is just a reflection of you and how you're feeling. So yeah, and culturally it was inspired for me. My culture is something I can't change, and where I'm from and my heritage is something that will always be connected with me, despite being a Londoner since I was born. So I thought it was very important to kind of bring it back to basics, bring it back to actually who I am and my heritage.
Random geopolitical question about Afghanistan and Pakistan. Weren't those borders redrawn at some point in the 20th century or 19th century?
Possibly. I think there's a whole lot of history around that region and borders and political situations, and Britain played a huge part in it. But I guess that's a story for another day.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that for my own like edification. I remember seeing something about that even the names of some of the countries were based on weird stuff that the Brits were doing when they redrew, or whoever redrew the borders. But I'll have to look into that. Pretty sure my niche audience isn't too worried about that one, but we can all Google it on our own, I guess.
Right. Maybe you can throw a map and just say back in the day it was.
Yeah, I'll throw some resources into the description.
Right.
So have you been over to the United States yet?
No. It's the States is somewhere I definitely love to go. It's just it just hasn't been part of the plans. How life takes over. Kind of the career has been a huge focus for me, and a lot of my time was spent in academia, but also the roles I ended up in were based in London. So although I'm currently in London, the company I'm working with is quite global. So hopefully one day. I visited Canada, I guess North America maybe, but not quite America yet. Hopefully one day.
Yeah, they're like America's polite, shy cousin, I guess.
It's what? Ironically,
friends. Yeah,
they have the rep of being super nice, and I thought it was just a stereotype that people had. But as soon as I went to Halifax as well, so it's not one of the super popular places, and they were amazing. They were so nice, so polite. They definitely live up to that stereotype. So all good things from Canada from my perspective.
Did you have any of their local food that's like like normal food but piled with like cheese curds?
Yeah, the poutine.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Do you have any of that?
Yes, I loved it. I always recommend people to go and try it. One of my favorite things that I've had when I went there.
How often do you think it's safe to eat it, biologically speaking?
Oh, whether it's healthy or not, I'm not sure. It's definitely a cheese-based, chips-based, gravy-based food. Like, it's not going to be healthy.
And that's French fries for my American viewers.
Oh, yes.
Chips.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. We have chips, but I think you call them crisp or something like that. Yeah. See, my daughter visited England her first year in college. I've never been over there, but she had a great time. She was actually hosted by a family instead of like staying in a hotel. So that was pretty cool. So she had dinner with, proper English families every night. So that was pretty neat. They weren't based in London, but they did visit London. So I thought that was exciting. People need to travel the world more, right? Our perspectives are too narrow, even online, because online we're interpreting them from our narrow perspective. Oh, they're freaking weird over there. But, in the United States, we're like that within the country about other states. Like, I live in Mississippi, but I have traveled this country a bit. I haven't been outside of the country. But, if you lived here your whole life, you think people in California are freaking weirdos, and people in New York are just all rude people mugging each other every day, and then
I was just going to say, I think it's super important because we live on one planet, but there's so much of it, right? You're very lucky. I've been watching your podcast as well. You're talking to people from all across the world, and that is amazing because as a person you'll develop just an idea that there's not one type of person. Being Afghan, also being from the UK, being a musician, being a scientist, and doing all those things, you get stereotyped. You get ideas that you kind of associate with people that do certain things or from certain places. So I am all for exploring the world because you learn so much about culture. You learn so much about people. At the end of the day, we're on two different sides of the world, but we can connect on various things: music, podcasting. We've lived different lives, but there's a lot we can connect with. So I think that's fascinating and amazing.
Me too. I mean, cultures are very different, but we all get hungry, we all get sleepy,
Right.
we all want to feel good and be successful. And the idea that we're all going to do it the same, for one, would be boring, and two, is just crazy to think 7 billion people are going to do stuff the same way. So yeah, I'm all about celebrating the differences instead of trying to homogenize people. I think that'd be terrible if everybody was the same, right? Because then nobody would be exciting. All you'd have to do to be like a immediate standout person in a community is move somewhere, that's different. And then you'd be really fascinating to those people and fascinated by those people. Like if you and I switch neighborhoods today, it'd be wild. Like everybody would see us as these, exotic elements to the community. And we would see the community as this exotic world, but it's pretty cool. I think we should take the best of each person we meet in city we visit. And that is my favorite thing about the podcast. I think all the different countries of origin and like ethnicities of people, it's just been wild. And even different states within the US, because we're so big, right? It's like as big as all of Europe, almost just in the United States. Hell, Texas itself is huge. Just that state is multiple cultural areas. So it's pretty cool. That's one thing I like about the internet, along with, it has its baggage, right? More people get to, troll us and all that, but we are more connected. You and I would have never spoke pre-internet, right? I'd have never heard your music and you never heard my podcast or anything. So that's the fun part. But anyway, before we wrap it up, man, what's next for Akso on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of exciting projects. Like I mentioned, I've just joined a band recently, so we'll be kind of working on that performance side of things, really exploring live music, and hopefully we've actually had an extension with our lockdown in the UK, so we're waiting for that to lift once everyone's fully vaccinated and we can actually do normal things and be normal people. Hopefully doing more live performances, exploring that side of things. More singles on the way. Like I said, I have an album's worth of music ready to go, but I'm focused on creating visuals that, like you said, are really cleverly done, professionally done, and just explore that side of my creativity, making sure that there is a thread in everything that I do. So super excited about that. A lot of things. I used to work with a music group as well, which helped me connect with other musicians, other producers. And I've actively, I think, again, we mentioned social media a lot on this podcast today. So I don't know how much you're going to cut out. But
I don't cut out anything, man. It's
okay.
It's raw.
All raw. Okay, so you've heard us talk about social media. I think it's a super powerful tool to connect with other musicians. I recently connected with a couple of other producers who wanted me to sing on their track. Again, different genres, super electronica for one, super R&B for the other, and very anime-based music as well, which is very different. So I'm working with a couple of producers, and again, me trying to dip my fingers in so many different things. I'm also working on production. I never played an instrument, so I felt like that was that put me on a back footing. I think when you get into music, if you play guitar, you can do performances. If you play piano, you can do that as well and create a basic melody. So I'm starting to explore music production. I have my whole setup now, so maybe some more covers like you suggested. So we'll see more of that.
Well, I think that it should be a natural transition for you when you go to write melodies and whatnot with your scientific background. Understanding the music theory will come pretty natural. And so I don't think you'll have much of a problem there because, understanding the different notes and all the combinations and scales should be, compared to a PhD in chemistry, it should be pretty straightforward. And like chemistry, at least in my experience, was very math-based, very mathematical kind of approach, right? Music is the same way, really, even if you don't know it, it's math because there's, mathematical differences in the notes you play and the way they transition and the way they sound and the way you can augment or diminish a note, things like that. So that'll be a natural transition for you. I'm interested how to see and hear that develop over time. So we'll definitely bring you back on after a while when, you got more stuff out and maybe some new lessons learned and some new ventures made. And, if you want to jump on some metal vocals, look into that. I'll send you some backtracks. You can see what you're inspired to create. I think everybody should do something in every genre, right? At least once, try it. But other than that, man, where can people find you online if they want more Akso?
Cool. Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. I think that's the platform that I use the most, which is Akso Heart. I'm also on YouTube. Again, Akso Heart.
Spell it right there.
There we go. And I have a Facebook page. Don't use it much, but you can find me there as well. So if you want to get in contact, email me. Do people do that anymore? I'm not sure. Akso Heart.
I email. I don't know if you get my emails, but I definitely email.
Got yours, yeah. For sure. So yes, Instagram, Akso Heart. And yeah, let's get connected.
Well, I'm looking forward to that next single because I did enjoy No More. And to be your first track out there, I can't imagine where you're going to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. It's going to be exciting. So hopefully this is just the first of one or two, 2 or 3 episodes over the next year or two with you. So other than that, I'll wish you luck. And thanks so much for coming on today, man. I really enjoyed it. Never know what I'm going to get with everybody. And I'm very happy with how everything went today, other than obviously the computer rebooting on me.
That's all good. All good. I'm so grateful for you to have me on your show. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, finally getting connected as well. So I'm definitely going to be supporting the podcast, and I appreciate it. Hopefully see you very soon, give you updates on my musical journey, and I'll be looking forward to hearing some of your stuff as well, because I know you're doing music as well. So
yeah. I got some stuff out there. Check that out when you can. In fact, after the show, I put in an ad for my stuff. So there you go. So hang around, listeners and viewers, if you want to hear some G Slade stuff. But other than that, appreciate everybody coming back to the show this week, last week, next week, hopefully. GSladeShow.com, or look up the podcast on pretty much any platform. Other than that, for Akso, myself, we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Hey, everybody. I want to thank you again for listening to another show today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I had a great time talking to our guest, and I can't wait to talk to another one next week and hopefully every week afterwards. And hopefully you keep coming back to listen. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to not only stream the podcast, but download it, catch it on YouTube, wherever you can get it. I appreciate all the support. And speaking of support, please support the sponsor of the show, which right now, as you can tell, dude looks just like me. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify or something else, just take my word for it. We look alike. And that's going to be G Slade Music. Look up G Slade. That's G space Slade, SLADE, like the band, but with a G. And find me on Spotify or your favorite music streaming platform, and check out the latest single, Canceled. That's right. G Slade is canceled, but you are not, and you can listen to as much of it as you want. In fact, we're going to play it right now on the podcast. But if you want to hear it on demand at any time, go check it out over on Spotify. You can go to gslade.com and find your way there. Or just look up G Slade Canceled on iTunes, Deezer. I guess people use Deezer. I don't know. Anyway, look up Canceled, the latest single featuring the beautiful human being and wonderful person and talented musician and artist, World's Not Gray, all the way from Barbados. It's an international affair, but catch it before it's canceled for real, because it's a little controversial, I guess. I don't know. Maybe. You be the judge. So send me some feedback on Twitter at G Slade Music or at G Slade Music Podcast. Either account, I would appreciate the feedback on the show, on the music. Please support the sponsor. And if you want some merch, you can head on over to merch.gslade.com and pick up G Slade Music related merchandise, G Slade Show related merchandise. Again, thank you. Even if you don't buy anything, if you stream and download the song, I'm forever in your debt, and I appreciate all the support. And we will see you back here next week with another great artist. Thank you. Peace out.
Told me I'd be canceled if I broke it down and told the truth. I guess I just don't give a fuck, so let me break it down for you. I'm speaking to the people who believe in what I'm speaking to. Gonna break out my guitar and tell the whole world what I'm about to do. Push free speech to the limit till they ban me off of Twitter, while the rich are getting richer. Split the road right down the middle, make us dance for the scraps. Pretend to give a crap, offer everyone a paradise before they take it back. Promising deliveries get lost in transit. Today betrays your memories, they already planned it. Gotta be willing to fight and stand up for what's right. Victories during the day get taken back at night. No need to keep receipts, cause we ain't coming for write-offs. Burn it down and pack it up and mount up and write off. You're sure to see us coming, we don't fuck with the light off. Building up that overtime, we don't take a night off. Cancel from the top, cancel from the bottom. Everyone gets canceled when society is rotten. Cancel for the symptoms, cancel for the cure. Everything is canceled until everything is pure.
These dishes that they're serving me are colder by the minute. No government conspiracy can hold me in a prison. They call it fancy names like quarantine and less the symptoms, but they don't know that I know my sovereignty ain't canceled. So pray for the earth and pray for the Vatican and pray that the system can be born and whole again. Pray for the mercy of God to bring back love again and break through the glass to push through the barriers.
Yeah, no need to keep receipts, cause we ain't coming for write-offs. Burn it down and pack it up and mount up and write off. You're sure to see us coming, we don't fuck with the light off. Building up that overtime, we don't take a night off. Cancel from the top, cancel from the bottom. Everyone gets canceled when society is rotten. Cancel for the symptoms, cancel for the cure. Everything is canceled until everything is pure. Cancel from the top, cancel from the bottom.